Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All praise to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the class. Let's chant the Mangalacharana prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksharam Uditam Yen Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yen Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadambhayam Dadati Svapatam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shirupam Sagrajatam Srihagna Raghunathanvitam Tam Sujeevam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Radhita Shri Vishakam Tanshanturu Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Samvidinamini Namaste Saraswate Deve गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश बंधुवे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरतुषे नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे। नमोस्तुते व्यास विशाल बुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्र नेत्रे येन त्वया भारत तैलपूर्णः प्रज्वलितो ज्ञानमय प्रदीपः प्रपन्न परिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणिये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृत दुहे नमः। Studying chapter 4, a new section will start today. Attaining knowledge through yajna or sacrifice. In the previous verses in this chapter, we discussed about transcendental knowledge. And we also discussed how Lord Krishna um, remains a non-doer because he does not desire for the results of his actions. And the same mentality is to be acquired by a yogi or a jnani or a devotee or a nishkam karmi yogi. So here we'll understand how through different types of activities or duties, uh, different personalities will attain to transcendental knowledge. Devam evapare yagyam yoginaha paryupasate brahmagnav apare yagyam yagye naivopachuhvati. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. Let's first look at the table of the different types of sacrifices that will be discussed in these verses. So one is demigod worship, the other is Brahman worship. There's mind control, sense enjoyment, self-control, charity, austerity, mysticism, study of the scriptures, pranayama. So these are the 10 types of yagyas mentioned for different kinds of personalities. 4.25 talks about demigod worship and Brahman worship. As described above, a person engaged in discharging duties in Krishna consciousness is also called a perfect yogi or a first class mystic. But there are others also who perform similar sacrifices in the worship of demigods, and still others who sacrifice to the Supreme Brahman or the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. So there are different kinds of sacrifices in terms of different categories. Such different categories of sacrifice by different types of performers only superficially demark varieties of sacrifice. Actually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord Vishnu, who is also known as the Yajna. All the different varieties of sacrifice can be placed within two primary divisions, namely sacrifice of worldly possessions and sacrifice in pursuit of transcendental knowledge. Those who are in Krishna consciousness sacrifice all material possessions for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, while others who want some temporary material happiness sacrifice their material possessions to satisfy demigods such as Indra, the sun god, etc. And others who are impersonalists sacrifice their identity by merging into the existence of impersonal Brahman. The demigods are powerful living entities appointed by the Supreme Lord for the maintenance and supervision of all material functions, like the heating, watering, and lighting of the universe. Those who are interested in material benefits worship the demigods by various sacrifices according to the Vedic rituals. They are called Bahu Ishwarvadi, or believers in many gods. But others who worship the impersonal feature of the absolute truth and regard the forms of the demigods as temporary, sacrifice their individual selves in the supreme fire, and thus end their individual existence by merging into the existence of the Supreme. Such impersonalists sacrifice their time in philosophical speculation to understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme. In other words, the fruity workers sacrifice their material possessions for material enjoyment, whereas the impersonalist sacrifice his material designations with a view to merging into the existence of the Supreme. For the impersonalist, the fire altar of sacrifice is the Supreme Brahman, and the offering is the self, being consumed by the fire of Brahman. The Krishna conscious person like Arjuna, however, sacrifices everything for the satisfaction of Krishna. And thus all his material possessions, as well as his own self, everything is sacrificed for Krishna. Thus he is the first class yogi, but he does not lose his individual existence. Here, mm, the way it is being explained is that, you know, the way we conduct a fire sacrifice, there is a priest who is chanting mantras, and then there is a executor of the sacrifice who is pouring ghee into the altar of sacrifice, the fire. So you know that there is something which is put into the fire that's known as offering or oblation, and there is a fire which consumes that. Using that kind of uh, analogy, here different kinds of sacrifices are being explained. One is where the living entity sacrifices the results of one's work, the fruitive results. But that sacrifice is put into where? It's put into demigod worship. And then there's another kind of living entity who sacrifice their own self. Their own self means their identity, material identities. I am this, I am that. into Supreme Brahman. Depending on what you sacrifice and where does the sacrifice go, one attains the connected destination. Right. At the end, Prabhupada summarizes and says that whereas a devotee of Krishna, like Arjuna, sacrifices everything for the satisfaction of Krishna. So this everything means it means the fruitive results, it means the material designations, it means everything else, mind, body, and words, for the satisfaction of Krishna. Hmm. And that's how he becomes the perfect yogi or the first class yogi, who does not lose his individual existence.
What is the example of material designation?
Material designation means like I am so and so. So you sacrifice this designation and you take up the designation, I am Krishna's servant. Right? Hmm. We are holding on to many things. It might be objects of this material world, or it might be material identities. So a fruitive worker, he or she sacrifices material objects. It's called dravya yajna. Now I have a house, I have some gold, I have some grains, food items, I have some money, I have some clothes, old clothes, I have some this, I have some that. So I put that into sacrifice. I give it away. So that's dravya yajna. And an jnani is one who sacrifices one's material identities. I'm an engineer, I'm a man, I'm rich, I'm Indian, I'm Australian. He sacrifices his identity into Brahman.
This comes under which yagya, Prabhuji? Material designation,
This is
sacrificing of.
explained here, no? This is Brahma Agno Apare Yagyam. It's called Brahma Yagya, impersonal, worshipping the impersonal Brahma. Mm.
Thank you.
But whereas a devotee sacrifices everything for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Mm. So in Sanskrit, different types of yagyas are given like this. Dravyamaya yagya, tapomaya yagya, yoga yagya, swadhyaya yagya. Let's go to the next verse. Shotradinindriyanyanye samyam samyamagnishu juhvati shabdadin vishayananya indriyagnishu juhvati. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control, and others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. Gunagraya Garang Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So the members of the four divisions of human life, namely the brahmachari, the grihastha, the banaprastha, and the sannyasi, are all meant to become perfect yogis or transcendentalists. Since human life is not meant for our enjoying sense gratification like the animals, the four orders of human life are so arranged that one may become perfect in spiritual life. The brahmacharis or students, under the care of a bona fide spiritual master, control the mind of abstraining from sense gratification. A brahmachari hears only words concerning Krishna consciousness. Hearing is the basic principle for understanding, and therefore the pure brahmachari engage fully in Harere Nama Kirtanam, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. He restrains himself from the vibrations of material sounds, and his hearing is engaged in the transcendental sound vibration of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Similarly, the householders who have some license for sense gratification perform such acts with great restraint. Sex life, intoxication, and meat eating are general tendencies of human society. But a regulated householder does not indulge in unrestricted sex life and other sense gratification. Marriage on the principle of religious life is therefore current in all civilized human society because that is the way of restricted sex life. This restricted, unattached sex life is also a kind of yoga because the restricted householder sacrifices his general tendency towards sense gratification for higher transcendental life. Hare Krishna.
Easy to understand. Next verse. सर्वाणीन्द्रियाणि कर्माणि प्राणकर्माणि चापरे आत्मसंयम योगाग्नौ जुह्वति ज्ञानदीपिते. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. Yes, Suman Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanyavad Pranam. The yoga system conceived by Patanjali is referred to herein. In the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, the soul is called Pratyek Atma, and the Parag Atma, as long as the soul is attached to sense enjoyment, it is called Parag Atma. But as soon as the same soul becomes detached from such sense enjoyment, it is called Pratyek Atma. The soul is subjected to the functions of 10 kinds of air at work within the body, and this is perceived through the breathing system. The Patanjali system of yoga instructs one on how to control the functions of the body's air in a technical manner so that ultimately all the functions of the air within become favorable for purifying the soul of material attachment. According to this yoga system, the Pratyek Atma is the ultimate goal. This Pratyek Atma is withdrawn from activities in matter. The senses interact with the sense objects like the ear of hearing for hearing, eyes for seeing, nose for smelling, tongue for tasting, and hand for touching. And all of them are thus engaged in activities outside the self. They are called the functions of Pranavayu. The Apanyavayu goes downwards, the Vyanavayu acts to shrink and expand, Samana Vayu adjusts equilibrium, Udana Vayu goes upwards, and when one is enlightened, one engages all these in searching for self realization. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, sorry. These terms which are used here in this purport are taken from Patanjali Yoga Sutra. States for those who are interested in mystic yoga system. You know, Pratyagatma and Paragatma refers to the detached and attached soul. One who is detached from sense enjoyment is called Pratyagatma. One who is attached is called Paragatma. I mean, just different way of calling out that tendency or that type of personality. So the soul is subjected to the functions of 10 kinds of air at work within the body, and this is perceived through the breathing system. The Patanjali system of yoga instructs on how to control the functions of the body's air in a technical manner so that all the functions of the air within become favorable for purifying the soul of material attachment. So this is a mechanical process of controlling one's mind and senses. Next. Dravya
What is the
yajna.
sacrifice?
Sorry.
What is the sacrifice here in this previous Patanjali?
What is the
What are they
sacrifice here?
sacrificing?
What is one sacrificing? One is sacrificing the activities of the senses. The senses interact with the sense objects. So they stop that. That's a sacrifice. And they control it. They sacrifice the activities of the senses by controlling the airs within the body. Right.
Thank you, brother.
Next. द्रव्ययज्ञा तपो यज्ञा योगयज्ञा तथा परे स्वाध्याय ज्ञान यज्ञाश्च यतः संशिता व्रताः. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities. By practicing the yoga of Eightfold Mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. Vishwapati Mukund Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. These sacrifices may be fitted into various divisions. There are persons who are sacrificing their possessions in the form of various kinds of charities. In India, the rich mercantile community or princely orders open various kinds of charitable institutions like Dharmashala, Annakshetra, Atidhisala, Anadalaya, and Vidyapita. And in other countries too, there are many hospitals, old age homes, and similar charitable foundations meant for distributing food, education, and medical treatment free to the poor. All these charitable activities are all called Dravyamaya Yajna. There are others who, for higher elevation in life or for promotion to higher planets within the universe, voluntarily accept many kinds of austerities such as Chandrayana, Chaturmasya. These processes entail severe vows for conducting life under certain rigid rules. For example, under the Chaturmasya vow, the candidate does not shave for 4 months during the year, July to October. He does not eat certain foods, does not eat twice in a day, or does not leave home. Such a sacrifice of the comforts of the life is called Tapomaya Yajna. There are still others who engage themselves in different kinds of mystic yogas like the Patanjali system for merging into the existence of the absolute, or Hatha Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga for particular perfections. And some travel to all the sanctified places of pilgrimage. All these practices are called Yoga Yajna, sacrifice for a certain type of perfection in the material world. There are others who engage themselves in the studies of different Vedic literature, specifically the Upanishads and Vedanta Sutras or the Sankhya philosophy. All of these are called Swadhyaya Yajna or engagement in the sacrifice of studies. All these yogis are faithfully engaged in different types of sacrifice and are seeking a higher status of life. Krishna consciousness, however, is different from these because it is the direct service of the Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any one of the above mentioned types of sacrifice, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotees. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you. Next verse. Apane juvati pranam prane panam tatha pare pranapanagati rutva pranayam parayanaham apare niyataharaha pranan praneshu juvati. Still others were inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, practiced by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming. and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. So this is the process of pranayama, through which again the airs are controlled and one is able to purify the mind and then the ego. Ashok,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. System of yoga for controlling the breathing process is called pranayama, and in the beginning it is practiced in the hatha yoga system through different sitting postures. All of these processes are recommended for controlling the senses and for advancement in spiritual realization. This practice involves controlling the airs within the body so as to reverse the directions of their passage. The apana air goes downward and the prana air goes up. The pranayama yogi practices breathing the opposite way until the currents are neutralized into puraka equilibrium. Offering the exhaled breath into the inhaled breath is called Richaka. When both the air currents are completely stopped, one is said to be in Kumbhaka Yoga. By practice of Kumbhaka Yoga, one can increase the duration of life for perfection of spiritual realization. The intelligent yogi is interested in attaining perfection in one's life without waiting for the next. For by practicing Kumbhaka Yoga, the yogis increase the duration of life by many, many years. A Krishna conscious person, however, being always situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, automatically becomes the controller of the senses. His senses, being always engaged in the service of Krishna, have no chance of becoming otherwise engaged. So, at the end of life, he is naturally transferred to the transcendental plane of Lord Krishna. Consequently, he makes no attempt to increase his longevity. He is at once raised to the platform of liberation as stated in Bhagavad-gita 14.26. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samtitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in unalloyed service to the Lord transcends the mode of material nature and is immediately elevated to the spiritual platform. A Krishna conscious person begins from the transcendental stage and he is constantly in that consciousness. Therefore, there is no falling down and ultimately he enters into the abode of the Lord without delay. The practice of reduced eating is automatically done when one eats only Krishna prasadam or food which is offered first to the Lord. Reducing the eating process is very helpful in the matter of sense control. And without sense control, there is no possibility of getting out of the material entanglement. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is a little diagram explaining how is the pranayama process taken into practice. So the lungs are empty. There's inhalation done, which is called puraka. The lungs become full, and then the breath is held for some time, retention. That's called antara kumbhaka. And then again the breath is exhaled. That's called rechaka. And after that exhalation is done, you don't breathe for some time. So the stomach is empty again, even the lungs. That's called bahya kumbhaka. And this mechanical process is done again and again, again and again and again, to control the pranavayu or regulate the pranavayu. So that's pranayama. Again, a very mechanical process to control the mind and senses. सर्वे अपि एते यज्ञविदो यज्ञस्य पिता कल्मषाः यज्ञशिष्टामृतभुजो यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम्. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. So all of them, though they take to different means, they finally become free from sinful reactions. And they advance towards eternal atmosphere, spiritual, supreme, eternal atmosphere. Abhishek Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhupada Pranam. From the foregoing explanations of the different types of sacrifice, namely sacrifice of the one's possessions, study of the Vedas or philosophical doctrines, the performance of the yoga system, it is found that the common aim of all is to control the senses. Sense gratification is the root cause of the material existence. Therefore, unless and until one is situated on the platform apart from the sense gratification, there is no chance of being elevated to the eternal platform of full knowledge, full bliss, and full life. This platform is the eternal atmosphere or the Brahman atmosphere. All the above mentioned sacrifice help one to become cleansed of the sinful reactions of the material existence. By this advancement in the life, not only does one become happy and opulent in this life, but also at the end he enters into the eternal kingdom of the God, either merging into the impersonal Brahman or associating with the Supreme Personality of the Godhead Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So, what is common in all of them? Control of the senses. That's the common point. Different people achieve it differently based on their nature. But the common goal is to control the senses. Nayam lokosti ayagyasya kuto anya kuru sattama. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? Purpose. Uma Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanyavad Pranam. Whatever form of material existence one is in, one is invariably ignorant of his real situation. In other words, existence in the material world is due to the multiple reaction to our sinful life. Ignorance is a cause of sinful life, and sinful life is a cause of one's dragging on in material existence. The human form of life is the only loophole by which one may get out of this entanglement. The Vedas therefore give us a chance for escape by pointing out the path of religion, economic control, regulated sense gratification, and at last the means to get out of the miserable condition entirely. The path of religion or the different kinds of sacrifice recommended above automatically solve our economic problems. By performance of yajna, we can have enough food, enough meal, etc. Even if there is so-called increase of population. When the body is fully supplied naturally, the next stage is to satisfy the senses. The Vedas prescribe therefore sacred marriage for regulated sense gratification. Thereby one is gradually elevated to the platform of release from material bondage, and the highest perfection of liberated life is to associate with the Supreme Lord. Perfection is achieved by performance of yajna, sacrifice as described above. Now, if a person is not inclined to perform yajna according to the Vedas, how can he expect a happy life even in this body? And what to speak of another body on another planet? There are different grades of material comfort in different heavenly planets, and in all cases there is immense happiness for persons engaged in different kinds of yajna. But the highest kind of happiness that a man can achieve is to be promoted to the spiritual planets by practice of Krishna consciousness. A life of Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all the problems of material existence. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So there are two purposes of all kinds of sacrifices, as mentioned here. One is sense control, and the other is freedom from sinful reactions. Yeah. Why is Srila Prabhupada highlighting this purpose? Because if this purpose is achieved, what means one takes to achieve the purpose doesn't matter. One can achieve them through the means mentioned in these verses, or one can achieve this purpose also through the means of direct devotional service to Krishna. In the process of Krishna consciousness also, there is sense control and there is freedom from sinful reactions. So the goal of sacrifice is achieved on this path as well. You know, one doesn't have to take the other paths which are mentioned. Next verse.
Prabhuji,
Evam,
human life is an opportunity to achieve this. It is mentioned human life is a loophole. How can we connect that?
human life is a loophole. Loophole is being mentioned in the sense that one is always rotating around in the cycle of birth and death and going on and on and on and on.
But
That's
we
like a
can
loop.
understand it that human life is an opportunity to do some sacrifice and go to the God.
Yeah, so it's a loophole. It's a way to exit this loop of cycle of birth and death.
Okay.
Right. एवं बहुविधा यज्ञा वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे कर्मजान विदितान सर्वान एवं ज्ञात्वा विमुक्ष्यसे. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. Huh? All these are born of different types of work. Different types of sacrifice as discussed above. I mentioned in the Vedas to suit the different types of worker. Because men are so deeply absorbed in the bodily concept, these sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, with the mind, or with the intelligence. But all of them are recommended for ultimately bringing about liberation from the body. This is confirmed by the Lord herewith from his own mouth. श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयाद् यज्ञाज् ज्ञानियज्ञः परन्तप सर्वं कर्माखिलं पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते. For chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. Usha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. The purpose of all sacrifices is to arrive at the status of complete knowledge, then to gain release from material miseries, and ultimately to engage in loving transcendental service to the Supreme Lord, Krishna consciousness. Nonetheless, there is a mystery about all these different activities of sacrifices, and one should know this mystery. Sacrifices sometimes take different forms according to the particular faith of the performer. When one's faith reaches the stage of transcendental knowledge, the performer of sacrifices should be considered more advanced than those who simply sacrifice material possessions without such knowledge. For without attainment of knowledge, sacrifices remain on the material platform and bestow no spiritual benefit. Real knowledge culminates in Krishna consciousness, the highest stage of transcendental knowledge. Without the elevation of knowledge, sacrifices are simply material activities. When, however, they are elevated to the level of transcendental knowledge, all such activities enter into the spiritual platform. Depending on differences in consciousness, sacrificial activities are sometimes called karma kanda, fruitive activities, and sometimes jnana kanda, knowledge in the pursuit of truth. It is better when the end is knowledge. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you. Dandavat Pranam.
Yes, it's better when the end is knowledge. So sacrifices should therefore lead to what? Development of transcendental knowledge. What is transcendental knowledge? To know myself as spirit soul and to know Krishna as the Supreme Lord. That's transcendental knowledge. The sacrifices, when done, require time or take time to produce this transcendental knowledge. So Arjuna here asks Krishna, is there a faster way, a more quick way to get all this knowledge? Can one do that more quickly rather than going through these time-taking processes? So then Krishna says yes. And then that process is given in 4.34 verse, very famous verse of Bhagavad-gita. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshanti te jnanam jnaninas sattvadarshinaha. What is the sacrifice here? Here you sacrifice your false pride. You become humble. And with humility, with submissive attitude, with a desire to serve, you approach a bona fide spiritual master. One who knows the transcendental knowledge, one who has the transcendental knowledge. And you inquire submissively. And then that person gives you the transcendental knowledge. In this way, you also get the transcendental knowledge. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So, 3 phases are there, or 3 steps are there in this process of surrender. Tadvidhi pranipatena. Pranipat means to surrender. Pariprashnena, to inquire. Sevaya, to serve. 3 things have to be done: submissiveness, inquiry, and service. Then the process of surrender becomes complete. We don't have to just inquire alone. We don't have to just be submissive or humble. We also have to be rendering some services. 3 things. So it all begins in this way. Let's say for the first time you approach a pure devotee of Krishna. You're submissive and you meet for the first time and you make some inquiry about some problem you're facing in life. And then that pure devotee of Krishna gives you an instruction. Execution of that instruction is the service that you have done. So the cycle got completed. You were humble. You approached with an inquiry. You were given instruction. And you executed that instruction. So you did some seva. Now this completion of one cycle will lead to development of more submissiveness. And then you will approach again with more inquiries. Inquiries which are of a higher level spiritual nature than before. And the spiritual master will give again some sets of instructions. And you execute them again. So again the cycle gets completed. In this way, perpetually the cycle goes on and on and on and on and on. You approach submissively, you inquire, you get some instruction, you execute them. In this way, the process of surrender to the spiritual master becomes complete. And one's acquisition of transcendental knowledge becomes more and more. Right? So this is the process prescribed here by Lord Krishna. And Arjuna is following that process. He's inquiring humbly for Krishna, and Krishna is giving him instructions to execute. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. Shamala Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. The path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult, The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following these principles of disciplic succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, as is the fashion of the foolish pretenders. The Bhagavatam 6.3.19 says, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The path of religion is directly enunciated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation or dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path. Nor by independent study of books of knowledge can one progress in spiritual life. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master, and when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him. In submission and service and inquiries, a bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind towards the disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, this is what is explained here. You approach, you inquire, you execute. Pranipata, Pariprashna, Sevaya. Whom a Tattvadarshi, the seer of the truth, one who has seen Krishna. Once Sri Srimad Gaur Gobind Swami Maharaj was in Sri Sri Radharani's Fairy Temple, Juhu, and Prabhupada was in his quarters upstairs. So Gaur Gobind Maharaj was asked to give a class on Bhagavad-gita. This verse. So here it said Tattvadarshina, one who sees the truth. So Gaur Gobind Maharaj explained in the class that Tattvadarshina means one who has seen the truth. And truth is Krishna. So Tattvadarshina means one who has seen Krishna face to face. Now in those days in iskcon, talking like this was not common. Right? Seeing Krishna face to face and all that. This was considered, the sentimental behavior or mood or approach. So some devotees sitting in the audience who were Prabhupada disciples and Maharaj got brother, they objected. Where is Prabhupada written in the purport? Tattvadarshi means seeing Krishna face to face. Prabhupada has written one who has seen the truth. Seen the truth means you have understood the truth, that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what it means. Prabhupada has never said, I have seen Krishna face to face. So now, Gaur Gobind Maharaj is also a realized soul. He says, no, it means Krishna, seeing Krishna face to face. That's Tattvadarshi. So there were arguments, and then everyone went upstairs to Prabhupada's room. The devotee who was in the audience started complaining that he's saying that one who has seen Krishna face to face, that's Tattva Darshan, and he can explain the truth. So Prabhupada looked at Maharaj and he said, "So you said so?" Maharaj said, "Yes, Prabhupada. This is what it means, seeing Krishna face to face." So Prabhupada said, "Okay." So then he sent all of them out, all the other devotees. And Gaur Govind Maharaj was alone in the Prabhupada's room, Prabhupada's quarters. And then Prabhupada looked at him and said, "You know what? These people are all new. They'll not understand all this stuff. You are correct, but they will not understand all this stuff." The Tadashi means one who has seen Krishna face to face. So that's what it means. One who has seen Krishna face to face, you approach such a spiritual master, you will inquire submissively, and you render service and joy. That way you make progress in Krishna consciousness. Right? In our lecture, Prabhupada says, now this is very, very, very interesting. If you purchase something, you must pay for it. You cannot pay by offering the value of the teachings of the spiritual master. That is not possible. So it is called sevaya. Dedicate your life for his service. You cannot pay. How can you repay a spiritual master? Dedicate your life for his service. That's the price one has to pay. So a good lesson. Don't go to God or Guru to just take from them. They are already giving. Go to them with a desire to serve them. Okay, let's take a break. Hare Krishna. In the next few verses, the result of acquiring transcendental knowledge is given. Like, any good student does self-evaluation. I have been taught this. Let me check if I've learned it properly or not. So Arjuna is thinking, I approach Krishna in a submissive attitude. I also inquired from Krishna that please tell me what is best for me in this situation. And Krishna has seemingly given me transcendental knowledge. What is the proof that I have actually received the knowledge from Krishna? That's self-evaluation. So Krishna in response speaks these verses that if you have received transcendental knowledge, Arjuna, this will be your experience. This will be the result obtained. What? You will no longer fall in illusion. You will cross over the ocean of miseries and will burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. The first effect of having obtained transcendental knowledge is no more illusion. So if Arjuna, you are out of illusion, you have transcendental knowledge. If you are still in illusion, you don't have transcendental knowledge. That's the self-check. Next verse 35. The result. Yajkyatva na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhutani asheshani drakshyashyas atmani athomayi. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. So by this knowledge, you will see that all the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And there is, so you'll not fall in illusion into it. Lalita Prishta knowledge.
Hare Krishna, Dhanana Pranam Papaji. The result of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are, is learning that all living beings are part and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. The sense of an existence separate from Krishna is called Maya. Ma, not Ya, this. Something that we have nothing to do with Krishna, that Krishna is only a great historical personality, and that the Absolute is an impersonal Brahman. Factually, as it is stated in the Bhagavad-gita, this impersonal Brahman is the personal effulgence of Krishna. Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of everything. In the Brahma Samhita, it's clearly stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expansions of Krishna. The Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in many expansions. This thought is material in nature. We have experience in the material world that a thing, when fragmentally distributed, loses its own original identity. But the Mayavadi philosophers fail to understand that absolute means that 1 plus 1 is equal to 1, and that 1 minus 1 is also equal to 1. This is a case in the absolute world. Hare Krishna.
Next paragraph. Sarvapalika Padma Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna Prabhupada. For want of sufficient knowledge in the absolute science, we are now covered with illusion, and therefore we think that we are separate from Krishna. Although we are separated parts of Krishna, we are nevertheless not different from him. The bodily difference of the living entities is Maya, or not actual fact. We are all meant to satisfy Krishna. By Maya alone, Arjuna thought that the temporary bodily relationship with his kinsman was more important than his eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. The whole teaching of the Gita is targeted toward this end, that a living being, as Krishna's eternal servitor, cannot be separated from Krishna, and his sense of being and identity apart from Krishna is called Maya. The living entities, as separate parts and parcels of the Supreme, have a purpose to fulfill. Having forgotten that purpose since time immemorial, they are situated in different bodies as men, animals, demigods, etc. Such bodily differences arise from forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. But when one is engaged in transcendental service through Krishna consciousness, one becomes at once liberated from this illusion. One can acquire such pure knowledge only from the bona fide spiritual master, and thereby avoid the delusion that the living entity is equal to Krishna. Perfect knowledge is that the Supreme Soul, Krishna, is the supreme shelter for all living entities, and giving up such shelter, the living entities are deluded by the material energy, imagining themselves to have a separate identity. Thus, under different standards of material identity, they become forgetful of Krishna. When, however, such deluded living entities become situated in Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that they are on the path of liberation, as confirmed in the Bhagavatam 2.10.6. Muktir hitvan yatha rupam swarupena vyavastitaha. Liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of Krishna, Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. becoming free from illusion, Maya. Next verse. Abhi chet asi papebhya sarvebhya papakrittamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vrijinang santarishyasi. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you'll be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. So here in these verses, the benefit of transcendental knowledge is described. The knowledge acts as a boat which takes us across the ocean of miseries. Proper understanding. Let's read this. Tulasi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Pranam. Proper understanding of one's constitutional position in relationship to Krishna is so nice that it can at once lift one from the struggle for existence, which goes on in the ocean of nescience. This material world is sometimes regarded as an ocean of nescience and sometimes as a blazing forest. In the ocean, however, an expert swimmer one may be, the struggle for existence is very severe. If someone comes forward and lifts the struggling swimmer from the ocean, he is the greatest savior. Perfect knowledge received from the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the path of liberation. The boat of Krishna consciousness is very simple, but at the same time, the most sublime. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. यथैधांसि संविधोऽग्निर् भस्मसात् कुरुते अर्जुन ज्ञानाग्नि सर्वकर्माणि भस्मसात् कुरुते तथा. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. Neha Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Perfect knowledge.
Please unmute yourself. Neha Mataji, unmute yourself.
Perfect knowledge of self and super self and of the relationship is compared herein to fire. This fire not only burns up all reactions to impious activities, but also all reactions to pious activities, turning them to ashes. There are many stages of reaction. Reaction in the making, reaction fructifying, reaction already achieved, and reaction a priori. But knowledge of the constitutional position of the living entity burns everything to ashes. When one is in complete knowledge, all reactions, both a priori and a posteriori, are consumed. In the Vedas, Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 4.4.22, it is stated, Ubhe uhai vaisya ete tarati amrutah sadhva asadhuni. One overcomes both the pious and impious reactions of work.
So here these two words are used, a priori and a posteriori. These are in Sanskrit prarabdha and aprarabdha, which we'll discuss more in Nectar of Devotion book and in another verse in Bhagavad-gita. So both are destroyed. Everything is destroyed to ashes. This transcendental knowledge does that. While studying Madhurya Kadamani, we came across this explanation by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Transcendental knowledge, only when it is knowledge of devotional service to Krishna. It will destroy prarabdha and aprarabdha both. But if it is only knowledge of Atma, which is also transcendental knowledge in one sense, that knowledge will not destroy prarabdha. So one who is Atma realized or self realized can destroy the reactions to one's past sins which are yet to fructify. But prarabdha has to be experienced till the last moment, till the death comes. And as death comes, then that person becomes liberated. Which means a jnani has to wait for death to come to become a liberated soul. But a devotee doesn't have to wait for death to come to become a liberated soul. A devotee becomes liberated soul even when the devotee is alive.
Prabhuji, priori is this prarabdha or aprarabdha? Two words used, no? Posteriori and priori. Which is prarabdha, which is aprarabdha?
What is priori would mean? Priori would mean first, right? What comes before. And posteriori means that comes later, right? So prarabdha would be priori and posteriori would be aprarabdha because aprarabdha is something which you are going to get in future and prarabdha is something which you have already gotten.
Thank
Next verse. Na hi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalena atmani vindati. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism. And one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. Which means this knowledge doesn't have to be externally acquired. By devotional service, one enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. Arathi, Mataji, please read.
Hare
There.
Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
When we speak of transcendental knowledge, we do so in terms of spiritual understanding. As such, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Ignorance is the cause of our bondage, and knowledge is the cause of our liberation. This knowledge is the mature fruit of devotional service. And when one is situated in transcendental knowledge, he need not search for peace elsewhere. For he enjoys peace within himself. In other words, this knowledge and peace culminate in Krishna consciousness. This is the last word in the Bhagavad-gita.
Shraddhaval labhate jnanam tatpara samyitendriyah jnanam labdva param shantim achirena adhigacchati. Shraddhaval labhate jnanam. One who has faith, that person will acquire transcendental knowledge. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. So these are the three qualities required: faith, dedication, sense control to realize transcendental knowledge. Faith, dedication, and sense control. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, Devaki Karuna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Such knowledge and consciousness can be achieved by a faithful
Be a little
person.
loud.
Such knowledge in Krishna consciousness can be achieved by a faithful person who believes firmly in Krishna. One is called a faithful man who thinks that simply by acting in Krishna consciousness, he can attain the highest perfection. This faith is attained by the discharge of devotional service and by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which cleanses one's heart of all material dirt. Over and above this, one should control the senses. A person who is faithful to Krishna and who controls the senses can easily attain perfection in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness without delay. Hare Krishna.
अज्ञश्चा श्रद्धधानश्च संशयात्मा विनश्यति नायं लोकोऽस्ति न परो न सुखं संशयात्मनः. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. Three kinds of personalities are mentioned here. Agyaha, Ashraddhadhanaha, Sanchayatma. You can see in the verse on the screen, there is Agya. Agya means ignorant. Ignorant, no knowledge of scriptures, that's ignorant. That person will never get happiness in this life or in the next. Now you may say, fine, I'm not ignorant. I know the scriptures, I study the scriptures. And Krishna says, you may not be ignorant, but you might be faithless. Ashraddhadhana. You know the knowledge, but you don't have faith in the knowledge. You do not trust. Then one may say, no, I have faith in the knowledge. The knowledge works. I know that. It works. And Krishna says, then if you are Sanshayatma, then also you will not get the benefit. What is Sanshayatma? You have faith, the knowledge works, but you doubt if it will work in your case or not. That's Sanshayatma. Which means we'll tell everyone else, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. But we doubt if I'll chant Hare Krishna, I'll be happy or not. So that is Sanshayatma. So, most of us, we don't fall in the category of ignorant because we're studying the scriptures, doing Bhakti-sastri. And most of us are also convinced that Krishna consciousness is the right path. So we are not faithless. But many of us might be Samshayatma. Sometimes doubting, sometimes convinced that this process will work on me. So Krishna says, all these three types of people, they cannot be happy in this world or in the next world. And that's true. If I don't have confidence in what I'm doing, how will I be happy? Right? If I'm doubtful that what I'm doing will produce the required result, how will I be happy or peaceful? I will never be happy or peaceful. So those who are ignorant, they are like animals, foolish like the animals. And those who are faithless, they have knowledge of scriptures, but because so many different things are given in the scriptures, they can get confused and they don't trust any of the theories mentioned in the scriptures. And doubters are those who have faith, but they doubt whether the Shastras will actually award true results. So what is required is, faith is required, hope is required, and optimism is required. That yes, this will work. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan Prabhu says that this hope or optimism is an essential quality for a sadhaka to become successful in Krishna consciousness. Purport. Megha Gupta means.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Out of many standard and authoritative revealed scriptures, the Bhagavad-gita is the best. Persons who are almost like animals have no faith in or knowledge of the standard revealed scriptures, and some, even though they have knowledge of or can cite passages from the revealed scriptures, have actually no faith in these words. And even though others may have faith in scriptures like Bhagavad-gita, they don't believe in or worship the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Such person cannot have any standing in Krishna consciousness. They fall down. Out of all the above mentioned persons, those who have no faith and are always doubtful make no progress at all. Man, without faith in God and his revealed word, find no good in this world nor in the next. For them, there is no happiness whatsoever. One should therefore follow the principles of revealed scriptures with faith and thereby be raised to the platform of knowledge. Only this knowledge will help one become promoted to the transcendental platform of spiritual understanding. In other words, doubtful persons have no status whatsoever in spiritual emancipations. One should therefore follow in the footsteps of great acharyas who are in the disciplic succession and thereby attain success. Hare Krishna.
Yoga sannyasta karmanam jnana sanchina samshayam atmavantam na karmani nibatnanti dhananjaya. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus is not bound by the reactions of work. Creatures. Please be on mute. One who follows the instruction of the Bhagavad-gita as it is imparted by the Lord, the personality of God himself, becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. He, as a part and parcel of the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, is already established in self-knowledge. As such, he is undoubtedly above bondage to action. Tasmat ajnana sambhutam kritstam jnana sinatmanaha chitvainam samshayam yogam atishto tishta bharata. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. Right. So this is the last verse here. Let's read this verse, the purport, and let's do this exercise, reading exercise. Read the purport of 4.42 and identify the different sections, total 5 in number. Add appropriate headings to all these sections. So you do this reading exercise now. It's not a very long purport. You can read on your own. And just for your help, we have mentioned it has 5 sections. So you find out those 5 sections. What does this purport talk about? It's an exercise on summarization of the section. Right. Take your time. 5 minutes to 8 minutes can be taken for this exercise. Done? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
The first is
the objective of sacrifice.
The
And,
objective or the goal of sacrifice. What is that?
sacrifice of one's material possessions and sacrifice of knowledge of self. So giving up unsinful reactions and controlling
That's not mentioned. What is mentioned is one who performs sacrifices with a spiritual objective or
sacrifice
emotional service makes a perfect sacrifice. So a perfect sacrifice is defined that you may be sacrificing material possessions or you might be in knowledge of self.
knowledge of self.
For the cases, the goal should be, objective should be devotional service. Then it becomes a perfect sacrifice.
Dovetail to spiritual realization.
Yes, that's the first section, first part of the property. The next is anyone else? Yes, but
Levels of
Faithless
spiritual
Prabhu,
knowledge.
one who doesn't understand Krishna's instructions in Gita, they becomes faithless.
what else? Someone else mentioned
The 2 levels of spiritual knowledge.
2 levels of knowledge. Understanding oneself
Oneself and Supreme Personality of God.
Right. 2 levels of spiritual knowledge. Ashok approach. What's the third part?
Common fact.
Third part? What is the third part?
Me?
Yeah, the third part of the book.
Common factor amongst all these sacrifices is the self-realization. Whatever sacrifice we make, ultimately it should result into self-realization, which is important.
That's the third part.
Yeah, understanding the transcendental activities of the Lord.
The third part is
How to awaken Krishna.
In the beginning of the chapter, the transcendental activities of the Lord were discussed by the Lord himself. So, understanding the real nature of the Lord. That's the third part. Krishna's activities are transcendental, understanding them. Then, next part is
how
goal of sacrifice.
Prabhuji, how Krishna consciousness is awakened by sacrifice?
Yeah, how to awaken Krishna consciousness.
Ignorance can be removed by gradual acceptance of the principles of Krishna consciousness. So, Krishna consciousness will help you achieve the goal of sacrifice. What are the different things mentioned before? The different types of sacrifices. Krishna consciousness will help achieve them, or Krishna consciousness can also be awakened by them. And finally, how to acquire this transcendental knowledge?
How to properly study
by studying Bhagavad-gita.
Yeah, by studying Bhagavad-gita. There are bona fide spiritual master. By rendering, Prabhupada repeats the verse 4.34. Inquiring submissively and rendering service unto him. So one who understands this is a liberated person from the very beginning of his study of Bhagavad-gita. Not that he is a liberated soul after the study of Bhagavad-gita. He is a liberated soul from the very beginning of the study of Bhagavad-gita. All right, stop here. Any questions? Chapter 4 ends today. We'll share the quiz with you all. I noticed that you all are not proactively doing the quizzes. Please do them. If you are not doing the quizzes on time, I doubt you will be able to do the CBA and the OBS on time. So please do the quizzes on time. Your exam will be in the month of June, last week, or maybe July first week. So you have 1 month to go. And because we missed, some sessions in between, I was thinking of taking some longer sessions in the upcoming classes instead of 2 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that, so that we can quickly cover up the missed sessions and we complete the course in time. Yes, any question? Ashok, any other question?
Prabhuji, this is regarding text 38 purport. In the last line, it is written, in other words, this knowledge and peace culminate in Krishna consciousness. It means knowledge and peace are the process. Result is the Krishna consciousness. It comes. First we acquire knowledge, purify ourselves, and then we achieve Krishna consciousness. Before this, immediately, the sentence says, this knowledge is mature fruit of devotional service. It means devotional service is fruit. Now, knowledge is fruit and devotional service is the result. So first knowledge comes, then we achieve Krishna consciousness, or first we enter into Krishna consciousness, then we achieve knowledge. This appears to be slightly contradictory to me. Here, two sentences.
Yeah, it is something like what came first, the hen or the egg, right? So we have to understand it is cyclic. It is cyclic. The cause and effect here is cyclic. If you acquire transcendental knowledge, proportionately, it will lead to development of Krishna consciousness. You have Krishna consciousness, increased Krishna consciousness, proportionately, it will lead to development of more transcendental knowledge. So it's a cyclic thing.
Right. That's clarified. In fact, if we go first to bhakti, then we develop knowledge. It is possible. Sometimes somebody reads the scriptures and then goes to bhakti. Thus, Krishna consciousness is aroused after reading the scriptures. It can also be done.
You are not understanding that way. You are saying, okay, maybe this is one case and that is another case. But what I'm trying to say is that perfection in development of transcendental knowledge, or perfection in Krishna consciousness, is not coming in one day, overnight, right? It's a process. So if I have acquired 1% of transcendental knowledge, that 1% of transcendental knowledge will lead to development of equivalent amount of Krishna consciousness. Now, when I am Krishna conscious and I do some service to Krishna, I execute devotional service, then that devotional service will lead to development of 2% of transcendental knowledge.
Okay. Simultaneously, this process goes on.
It's a cyclic thing. It's a cyclic. Right? Like to give an example, when you are when you have not eaten for many days, then you even lose the power to eat, right? There's no power to digest, there's no power to eat. So you put the first morsel in your mouth. What will that first morsel produce? Some strength in the body. And that strength will produce a greater capacity to eat. Right? Then you eat again, another morsel, it will produce more strength. So that's how it is. It is cyclic. It is a cyclic thing. You develop transcendental knowledge, it leads to better Krishna consciousness. You are more Krishna conscious, it will eventually lead to development of more transcendental knowledge. And then complementing each other, what happens is you grow and finally attain the perfection.
Simultaneously, it goes on in small proportions.
Correct. It's like a cycle. Like I study Gita every day, let's say. So every day I am acquiring some knowledge. which means the next day my execution of devotional service should be of a better quality. And if my execution of devotional service is going to be of better quality, then that day when I sit to study Bhagavad-gita again, then my study will also be better and my understanding will also be better.
100%.
Right?
It happens, practically it happens.
Yes. Thank you. Vrindarani.
Hare Krishna, my obeisances. I have question considering verse 434. It is said that satisfaction of spiritual master is the key for spiritual advancement. But there are many people, I speak about people in general, which are cheated by false gurus. So they're reluctant to give faith, put their faith to someone else. So how can they advance in spiritual life?
They were cheated by a false guru. But they are following the process of Krishna consciousness, right?
For example, yes.
A very common mistake which we do in understanding is that we have only one guru. And if that guru is false, we are without a guru. It's a very common misunderstanding. We have one Diksha Guru and we have multiple Siksha Gurus. And if you are following the process sincerely and one of the Gurus is not sincere enough, you are still being showered mercy upon by the other Gurus because you are sincerely following the process. Right? Like to give you an example, let's say any XYZ devotee in iskcon has Srila Prabhupada as the preeminent Siksha Guru, isn't it? Has the
Yes.
Diksha Guru as Guru and has other Siksha Gurus as well. All of these Gurus must be observing this particular devotee, whether he or she is practicing the devotional service nicely or not. So if one of them goes off track, the others, they don't lose their compassionate sight on this person. They also keep the compassionate sight on this person. So if this person is sincere, this person is satisfying the spiritual master, the genuine ones. And those genuine ones will continue to shower mercy. Understand?
Yes, and Prabhu, can I ask one more thing? What is the etiquette about considering Shiksha Gurus? Is it necessary to ask someone like, can you be my Shiksha Guru, to approach like that? Or it's sufficient if we have attitude of serving and learning from that person?
Either is fine. It's just that when you approach someone and request a person that will you be my Siksha Guru, it makes the relationship, uh, more formal, or in the sense that person becomes accountable towards you and you become accountable towards that person. Isn't it? Then that person may start taking special interest in you because you have inquired from that person, can I be your student? As such, you can learn from any devotee without becoming that devotee student. But then that devotee will also not take your responsibility. Isn't it? But when
Yes.
you approach someone and express your heart, I want to be your student, then that person will take your responsibility, which will be a greater support. You understanding?
Yes. Thank you.
So that's much better, because as such Vaishnavas, genuine Vaishnavas are very kind and compassionate. Even if you don't go and tell them that will you be my Siksha Guru, and you still ask them some queries, they will answer, they will reply. But they may not start taking the personal interest in you. But if you express this desire that will you take my responsibility, will you be my Siksha Guru, then they may start taking that special interest. Okay, this person has come to me, now it's my job to take care of him or her. So what can be done is, if you are approaching someone, you observe that person for some period of time, you inquire from that person, and you see if the result is visible in your life, good result is visible in your life after you have started following the instructions of that person. And once you have seen that good results are visible, then you formally ask, will you be my Siksha Guru?
And is it a necessary allowance from Diksha Guru to ask someone else to be your Shiksha or not?
Well, it's not really required if you are accepting a pure devotee as your Siksha Guru. Depends, sometimes what happens is, honestly speaking, you might have taken, or someone might have taken Diksha from a personality who might not be very advanced. It's not always true, but sometimes it might be true. And if that person is not free from envy, and you ask that person, can I take Siksha from someone else? That person's ego might get hurt. Right? So you ask, no problem. You should ask, you should. And if that person says yes, very nice. If that person says no, then you ask that person, why no? If that person is a pure devotee, that person will never say no. Right?
One more question, sorry, Prabhu. Is it bona fide if a person which is from iskcon society asks us for Shiksha Guru, which is outside of iskcon, but it's also advanced person? I'm just curious.
It is not recommended. It's not recommended. It's not recommended to take Siksha from outside iskcon. That's the instruction by Srila Prabhupada. And why we should not take outside iskcon? Multiple reasons. First, it's not that we lack advanced devotees in iskcon. So why go outside iskcon? Second, that person may not really understand Prabhupada's mood. So then we may end up in trouble later. Third, that person may be very, very advanced, but we are not advanced enough to know what that person is telling me. Is that going to be the same what Prabhupada would tell me? Or my Diksha Guru, who is a pure devotee, or other Siksha Gurus who are pure devotees would tell, Because when you are not in the same path, There are slight differences. It's not the same. There are slight differences in the mood, in the approach, in the mission, in the application. It's not the same. Right?
Thank you for clarifying this.
But there's nothing wrong in sometimes if you happen to meet someone from outside and you just had some philosophical discussion. There's nothing wrong. But not that we start taking siksha, which means instructions. Hmm?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, as we know that there is a sloka called Dibbogyan Hriday Prakashita. So could you please explain a little bit more like the way we are learning the knowledge from Bhagavad-gita and we are practicing, is it that things or it will be revealed by our serving attitude or the mode we are doing the devotional service?
Yeah, it's both ways, Prabhu. Our study will also reveal, our services will also reveal both ways. Our study is also a service. Why am I doing Bhakti-sastri? Or why should anyone do Bhakti-sastri? There might be many reasons, but I think the best reason is Srila Prabhupada wanted us to do it. So if I am doing with that spirit that because Prabhupada wanted us to do it, let me do it, then you are doing it as a service to Srila Prabhupada. So your study also becomes a service then.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Well, anything becomes a service, and that service will then lead to the result that knowledge will be revealed in the heart. Transcendent revelation will happen. Srila Prabhupada wanted this, you know why? Because see, Prabhupada was very, very expert. He was a genius. In the times of Bhakti-siddhanta and in the times of the acharyas who came before him, there was not so much of academic approach towards devotional service because not everyone was of that caliber. But you know, in the modern times, there is something which is easily available, which is mass education. Everyone is being uh, forced or encouraged to study, to read, to write. And Srila Prabhupada saw that human beings spend years and years to study garbage stuff, rubbish stuff, right? Years and years to study rubbish stuff. So he just found a means to apply that tendency in Krishna consciousness. That you have a tendency to study, to make notes, to do this, to prepare for exams. So why not use that tendency in Krishna consciousness? So study my books, make notes from my books, memorize, give exams. That's Prabhupada's genius, actually. So that, you know, we will be like, because we cannot give up our nature. We cannot give up our nature. So we are conditioned in this way. Prabhupada said, okay, I'll give you Krishna consciousness as per your condition. Right? So you study, you do all this. And in this way, you are associating with him, his teachings, and slowly, slowly making progress in Krishna. That's the point.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hmm. Okay, that's why, honestly speaking, all this is nonsense. Whether you score 95%, 90%, 85, 80, 60, 70, all that is nonsense. Because that whole methodology of evaluating the student is not really correct. How can it be correct? Let's say I ask 12 questions to you, and you have studied well, and you know the answer to all the other 48 questions and not these 12 questions. So I give you zero. Now, that doesn't mean that you are a bad student. You know answer to the other 48 questions. Yeah. So this whole methodology of evaluation is nonsense. So that's not the key to understand whether we are good students or Bhakti-sastri or not. The key is we have to do it because Prabhupada wanted us to do it. So we're doing it. That's all. Right. Mittam and Seva Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question was there are different services. Like you are saying that reading is also a service and chanting is also a service, doing Mangala is also service, doing direct deity worship is also service. So sometimes I get confused how to prioritize them. So can you help me in this?
Prioritizing things. Prioritizing things, Prabhupada has given us idea. Chanting is highest priority, synonyms. Then, if you have deities, you have to serve them. You can't skip serving them. And then you should hear some Krishna Katha every day. And you should also do some reading it. After that, whatever else you want to do, you can do.
And when we chant, sometimes like I feel like I should chant more and more and more than 16. And
You chant more and more and more, no
but
problem.
that will come on the fifth priority. Means after 16, I should do all the next three things, and then my fifth priority will go for the extra round.
That's okay, no problem. You can do chanting that time itself more, or you can do later. There's nothing like that. There's no hard and fast rule. Someday you like to chant more, you chant more. Someday you like to read more, you read more. Someday you like to hear more, you hear more.
Okay. But all, but I should take all them as equal.
Yeah. When we study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we learn from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that different devotees will have special inclination towards different activities in Krishna consciousness. And they would like to do that activity more than other activities in Krishna. And there's nothing wrong about it.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Like, for example, you might like to eat more rice, and someone else might like to eat more chapati. How does it matter if both rice and chapati are prasadam? Doesn't matter. You eat more rice, someone else will eat more chapati. Finally, both are eating prasadam.
मुझे इसमें
Isn't it?
दोनों खाने हो
If you want to eat both, then you eat both. 50-50.
मैं ऐसा कुछ जैसे अभी हम ये पढ़ रहे हैं ना गीता I have started Bhagavatam also and then some lectures of Chaitanya Charitamrita also
Yeah,
so
that's
all
okay.
these things
No
mix up.
problem. It depends on the nature of a person, Mataji. Some people are like that. So it's okay. If that's your nature, a little bit of Gita, a little bit of Bhagavatam, a little bit of Chaitanya Charitamrita, no problem. It is all good as long as you complete them. If you just take up something and then you drop and then you go to something else and then you drop and you go to something else and you drop, then it's not good. But if you read 10 books also at the same time and you complete all 10 of them, what's wrong?
Okay, thank you.
Like, there are two kinds of people. When they eat, you observe them. If there are 5 to 8 preparations on the plate, there's one kind of eater who will finish one preparation at a time. You have seen?
Yes,
There's
yes.
one is that kind of eater. If there are 5 to 6 preparations, first one preparation, fully finish it, then go to the next, then fully finish it, then go to the next, then fully finish it. And this other kind of eater, little bit from here, then little bit from there, then come back to the first one, then go to the fourth one, then fourth, mix the fourth and the third little bit, and then go to the second one. So,
The example is very beautiful, Prabhuji. I'm feeling good now.
you are of second category.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm.
All right.
Prabhuji, can I ask something in continuation with that question?
Uh-huh.
So, how do you prioritize the seva then? Where does the seva come in?
Seva means something else, right? Other than all these activities you mentioned.
Which is also sometimes the most important thing, like the whole day you're busy with that. So where does that come in terms of priority?
That's okay. If it is a priority, we give it that priority, which is required. Prabhupada also allowed his disciples to sometimes to do projects which needed emergency action or involvement. But then that should not become our routine 365 days a year, which means we should take out some time for healthy Shravanam Kirtanam. Right. Not that we have to be always running around and doing things. That's okay. Because I will tell this from the life of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. This is, I think, a very good example. Why? Because anyone would tell he was the busiest man or personality in ISKCON in terms of what he had to do. I don't think there was anyone more busy than him. You know, based on one thing is that you like to do something. The other thing is that you have that burden of responsibility on your head, right? So in that sense, Maharaj was the busiest personality in terms of the responsibilities he carried, meetings and all those things. But the good thing was that he every day maintained this person's sadhana. That never he reduced. His chanting, his reading, his hearing, never compromised to that thing. So, I think that's a very good example to learn from. He did not give this excuse, oh, I have so many things to do, I can't chant. I have so many things to do, I can't hear. I have so many things to do, I cannot read. He never gave that excuse, though he could have given. Because I'll tell you something, I have observed when I was in Juhu temple, they used to organize the semi-annual GBC meetings in Juhu. The annual GBC meetings would be held in Mayapur, in the semi in Juhu. So, and we would go there to serve. So we observed, I personally observed, that meetings means morning 9 a.m. it starts and it goes on till night 9 p.m., 12 hours. Many sannyasis, you would see them walking on the terrace after 9 p.m. completing the japa. But you would not see Gopal Krishna Maharaj do it. Never. That his japa was left till 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. or something.
Our part is very clear, Prabhuji. Japa part is first thing.
No, I'm not just telling about japa. I'm just giving an example. Like why others were not able to even manage to complete their japa. Why others were not able to manage to complete their japa. Though they were not that busy as Maharaj, but Maharaj was able to.
Understood.
Similarly, when it comes to reading, when it comes to hearing, he did it. While doing his puja, he told someone, you read for me. While traveling in a car, he would start reading or hear. So like that, we have to, we have to manage. That's the point. Have to manage.
Trying to.
Yeah, that we have to manage. That would be very safe, very safe. Otherwise, uh, then what happens is we get lost in just doing the institutional activities.
Got it. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So Maharaj was a brilliant example for that, I feel. Very good example for that. He did all those activities nicely, diligently. Done? Stop here. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. We'll start chapter 5. I'll share the quiz today. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam.